What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Rock Your Brand podcast. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you a simple strategy that, I've used it over the last, about 10 days now. Sent a few messages and got some orders. Actually, today, I just updated my title there. It was 20 orders. It's 21 now. And $929 in sales. And today what I want to do is I want to share that with you, and I want to show you how you can do it as well. And also how this is a huge advantage for us Etsy sellers that are able to do this type of strategy, but also have this kind of traffic. So with that being said, we're going to get rocking and rolling. Chris is going to be here with us today, but from a different location. Chris, why don't you pop in here and tell us how you're doing there in that sunny place that you're hanging out at today?
Well, I kind of had two options in this place. It was either prison cell or bright white room. So those are the two options. But we're getting to do, Scott, something that I think everybody should get the chance to do. We're getting to do a test drive of what might be a new place, which I think is kind of cool. We got the week to check it out. So we're going to test the internet. We're going to see what this would look like. This potentially would be my office. Obviously, changing some things around because I don't need a giant white empty room for anything, but bringing my stuff in here. So we're going to see if the connection holds up and what everybody thinks of the new place.
Yeah,
I'm liking the view so far.
Yeah, so. It's sounding good, looking good. Let us know in the comments how Chris is sounding and looking today. Well, I mean, he's always looking dapper there with that bald head is his now that he's got.
Yeah.
Nice little growth,
extra
on the
shiny with all that extra natural light coming in. I like
it looks good. All right, cool. So yeah, we're gonna dig in, guys. You guys know we are big fans of email, and yes, that's what today is about. Now, before you go running off and you're like, Scott, but I'm not there yet, I don't have an email list. Stay with me, okay? Please stay with me, because what I'm about to share with you is pretty exciting. And just because you're brand new, or maybe you haven't started doing this yet, it's never too late to start. And we're heading into Q4 right now. Actually, we're touching like we're in it. This is the best time. And the exciting thing is we haven't even really got into the heart of it. And I'm already seeing this strategy work very, very well. And I'm going to take this strategy and I'm going to use it again and again and again. I'm just going to be mixing it up. And I want to share with you today how these 3 emails that I sent. Now, I did share this on last week's live. I shared one of those emails. And at that time, I'd have to remember back, but I think we had like 9 orders from that one email. Well, we've since sent a couple more emails, and now we're up to 21 orders. And that 21 orders happened before I sent my other email that I just sent out before I got on here with you guys. All right. So who here wants to see the email and to see how simple it was? Oh, Chris does. Chris wants to see it. I don't even think Chris saw this email that I put together here that I sent out. So who wants to see the email? Because I want to walk you guys through it. I want to also walk through how simple it is. But also, if you don't know what to write about, you're going to see how I was able to come up with something to write about. And I've been doing this a long time, so I kind of have a little bit of a formula. I have a little bit of a template that I've built that I basically just plug and play. And that's what I want to share with you here today. So if I get enough yeses, we'll go ahead and do this. I mean, I'm going to probably do it anyway, but I just want you guys to get involved. Let me know in the comments. I'm seeing a flood of yes, and yes, okay, show me the email. Me, okay, cool, definitely, awesome. And also let us know in the comments where you're tuning in from today. We just want to know where you're tuning in from around the globe. All right, cool. So before we do though, Chris, I want to walk through the very first thing that we need. Okay, the very first thing that we need. There's actually 5 things I'm going to cover here, but there's one thing that we need is we need a reason. We need a reason for emailing. And in this case, it's a new product. So we can call this a product launch. We can call this a new product release promo, whatever you want to call it. But what I want to share with you is how I was able to come up with something. And funny thing here is I took the niche and I turned it into someone else's niche. So this way here, I could show you and how we can adapt it to various niches. It doesn't have to be just in one specific niche. So let me go ahead and share my screen and I'm going to dig into it here. All right. So let me go ahead and pull that up. And Chris, let's get to her right there. All right, cool. So there we are. Okay. Now, I updated the slide here where it says 21 orders, $929. It was when I put this together yesterday because I knew I was going to share this with you. I had on there 20 orders, and I believe it was like 800 and some dollars. I forget what it was, whatever it was in the title. Oh, $897. All right. But since then, we've added another order. And the crazy thing is that other order came in not from me sending another email. It was from the email that was already sent. It's just happened that someone bought after the fact. Okay. Now this is from 3 emails. These emails took me less than 10 minutes to write. Some of them 5 minutes to write. All right. And what I want to do here is I want to get to my screen here so I can actually share exactly what I want to share here. Here we are. So I'm going to actually use my little handy dandy little, my little highlighter here. So it all starts right here, right? We need to write that email. Okay. And then once we write the email, we need to send the email. Now you might be wondering, Scott, how do you build an email list? How do you do this? Well, we use a giveaway for the most part, but we also collect it through our customers. And before you go saying, well, Scott, they don't let you to collect emails anymore. I'm going to tell you this, and I've said this probably 100 times now, and maybe even more. They just want you to get permission. That is it. All right. And maybe a little bit later, we'll talk about how you can actually collect your customer emails by them giving you permission. We'll talk about that later. But this right here, the bulk, I would say the bulk of, well, maybe not the bulk. I would say probably like 70-30. 70% probably came from the giveaway model or the fishbowl method, as we call it. But if you want that, guys, I have a guide that we put together. Chris and I put this together, and it's our email playbook. It'll give you the framework of what we do to build the email list. So we can do this, because without the email list, you can send the emails, but if you don't have anybody to send it to, what good is it? All right. So we do need that email list. Okay. We need this right here. So I'm just going to keep drawing on this thing to really make this thing known. You need an email list. All right. But let's say that you have an email list, and I don't care if it's 10 people, guys. If it's 10 people, great. Here's an important piece. All right. I'm going to change the color here because it's so important. I'm going to change it to green. We need to grab our share and save link. Okay. That share and save link is how I know that these orders came from email. Okay. And you can see it right here. Saved $37.15. That's a lunch for me and my wife. Okay. So what we then do is we share the link and we basically drive them to the Etsy listing. That's it. That's as complicated as it is. All right. Not too complicated. So we need to start though with writing the email. All right. And that's what I want to do here. I want to share that with you next. So let's go ahead and let's get to it. All right. This was the email that I shared last week. Okay. And you can see there was 9 orders. There was 9 orders in that. I'm going to go ahead and change my color one more time, bring it back to the green. Actually, let's make this a different one. Let's make this orange. Why not play with orange today? Oops, I don't want to do that. Let's get that back. Where did that go, Chris?
Oh, see, this is what happens when we do things live, Scott. We just
I know.
delete slides.
Let's see here. Let's get out of there. Let's see here. Can I get that back? Oh, I can. But guess what, Chris? There we are with that blank screen again. So let me add that back. Why don't you minus this thing down and get me back so I can work on this.
So I know we're going to have a lot of people asking, Scott, about the email building side of this. How do we get people onto the list? And we've talked about this again and again. But if you aren't familiar with the concept, just drop email down below and we can get you the entire guide that we use. What we essentially do is we use what we call the fishbowl method. That's the easy way to do it. It's essentially a giveaway. So we're going to put together a few of the different products that we have to offer and promote the giveaway to our niche, right? All they then do is they opt in for the giveaway. They also opt in to hear from us. And when we have a new product to talk about, we want to run a promotion, we want to do any of the great things that you can do with email, all you have to do is type it up and hit send, which is what Scott is showing us here today. Now you got that image back rocking and rolling.
Yep. All right, cool. So now I got to stop clicking on highlighters and stuff. So basically here, this was the email I shared last week. Okay. And I'm not going to go ahead and review this one. Last week, it was in the live stream. If you want to go watch that one, you can. But this is basically the email that we wrote here. Very, very simple. And like I said, we just have a very simple title. New teacher's pumpkin spice ? And then, hey there, it's Lisa. And then basically I just kind of, go through as far as why we're doing it. But I already shared this one. So I wanted to share the one that we're doing right now. Okay. Or that we sent the other day. So that's this one right here. Okay. So we're starting again with the subject line. Okay. And this one here is, this teacher needed this, smiley face. Okay. So imagine we are selling to teachers. Okay. Hey friends, this morning put me in the fall mood. I'll go ahead and highlight this too for you. This morning put me in the fall mood with cool temperatures and a slight breeze. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. It made me want to break out my pumpkin and spice, make this teacher nice sweatshirt for the college football game I'm attending this afternoon. Which, by the way, we did attend a college football game. And I basically just said, hey, I'm wearing it to the game. That's all I did. Okay. It's funny because the reason I started my Etsy shop 3 years ago was to create teacher merch for myself. LOL. Now I get to share it with you and other proud teachers. Smiley face. Okay. Now this one here, super important. That's why I'm going to change the color on this one. This right here, that's what we call the CTA, the call to action. You can check out my pumpkin spice makes this teacher nice sweatshirt here. And it's hyperlinked going to the listing. That's the share and save link. Okay. That's the share and save link. All right. Now I go on, I'll bring it back to the other one so we kind of keep it the same. So then here we got, and it's on sale at the moment too. And then here, have a great weekend and I'll talk to you soon. Lisa, proud teacher. And then let's see here. Okay, this is important. Let me go ahead and change the color on this one because it's important. And this leads to money. Okay, so right here, if you notice, it says, if you haven't visited my Etsy shop lately, I've created some new designs for fall, Halloween, and Christmas. And then right here, go here to see my latest designs. And that's the email. This one here, 135 words. That's it. All right. 135 words. How many here think that they can write an email with 135 words? Or just take this right here. Maybe stop this video and take a screenshot if you want to and model this. Super easy. Now, I'm going to go back here real quick. And I want to focus on like this stuff right here. Like if I just focus on this here, I put this in here because it adds curiosity. It also acts as if it was a friend writing to a friend. And what do I mean by that? Well, what I mean is right here, see this little smiley face? It's not an emoji. It's just your text style. Like I'm going to do it in an email real quick, right? I'm not using an emoji because I don't have emojis on my keypad, right? Now, if you're on your phone, a lot of times you are going to do that, but we're writing an email. Okay. Different thing. All right. The other thing is I want to bring to your attention is here. I just said, hey friends, right? It's not like, hey customer, hey potential customer. Like it's not that. All right. And then here I just go in and I tell a little bit about the time of day it is, what kind of day it is. It's now, it's relevant because it is fall. And I'm just like, this morning put me in the fall mood with cool temperatures and a slight breeze, which it did. Okay. And then from there, I just go on to what I had made. It made me want to break out my pumpkin spice, makes this teacher nice sweatshirt for the college football game I'm attending this afternoon. That's it. So we could easily change this up if it was like, hey friends, this morning put me in the fall mood and cool temperatures and a slight breeze. And then maybe you sell sweatshirts for horses, or maybe you sell sweatshirts because you're into gardening, right? You're like, it made me want to put on my Mama Loves Gardening sweatshirt this morning and actually wear it outside while I'm doing my gardening. That could have been it, right? Or whatever you were doing. So you bring a little bit of like real life, what you're doing, and then you bring product into it. Okay. But this one here, this here is really, really important because that's the call to action. And we always usually put 2 of them in an email, 2 in an email. Okay. And those 2 email or those 2 links give them 2 opportunities. And if someone scroll down to the bottom, they might miss this one again, right? We're giving them another, like in the breakdown of this email. And if you also notice this, you don't see a lot of block paragraphs, right? It's not like I put like, if your English teacher saw this, they'd be like, wow, you're going to get a D because you didn't write it that grammatically correct, right? Like it's just not, you didn't do things right, right? You didn't indent, you didn't, your sentences might've been a little run on, or maybe, you shouldn't have really, there was no reason to drop down into a space. You're still talking about the same thing. So we need to get out of that mindset and get into the mindset of like, if this email is being read by someone in your audience, they are limited on time. So we want to get to the point quick, but we also want to throw a little bit of personality in there. We want to put a little bit of like, we're a real person. We're not just a business, and things like that. So Chris, any questions on this or anything that you wanted to bring to anyone's attention on this?
Yeah, I think the basic formula that you're using here, Scott, I think is important for people to understand. And what we're really talking about is there's 3 basic building blocks that we're looking at here, right? The first thing that we need to do is capture the audience's attention. And that's what you're doing with that subject line. You talked about throwing the smiley face in there. The entire thing that we are doing, no matter whether it's the subject line or the body of the email, is we're talking to a friend. And this is where people tend to overcomplicate email. They say, hey, I don't know what to write. Well, if you had a friend that was in your niche, what would you write to them? You'd be like, hey, man, you need this, right? And that's really what you're doing in the subject line. Or, hey, lady, you need this, whatever gender you're talking to there, right? And
Right.
in this case, you just said, hey, friends, which also works. And so then all you're doing is saying, hey, here's a quick update of what I'm doing today. That's the personality piece. We call that the connection piece, right? So we're capturing the attention with the subject line. What's the reason they're going to open this? In this case, you're injecting a little bit of personality there. You're making people smile and laugh with the subject line. This teacher needed this. And the little emoji smiley face that you put in there, the old school smiley face, because you're using your keyboard, not your phone to write this email. And then we're creating that connection by injecting a little bit of further personality, which is exactly what you would do if you're writing an email to a friend. People tend to overcomplicate this. And they say, oh, it's coming from my business. I need to put in a bunch of images. I need to make this really formatted email. The fact is, this works substantially better. So if we can capture their attention with a nice little subject line, sometimes it's going to be something like this. Other times it might be a question or just a statement that you think would be controversial. Then we can inject just a little bit of personality. What are you doing today? What's the reason that you're emailing them? In this case, Scott, the reason you're emailing them is it's a chilly day. You threw on the sweatshirt and you thought it might be something that they'd be interested in, right? That's all the connection we need. And then the third piece that you need to make an email work is that call to action. What is that call to action? Go here, click this. And I think in this case, you said you can check out my pumpkin spice makes this teacher nice sweatshirt here. Doesn't have to be any more complicated than that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Go here, get thing. That's all we have to do for the call to action. And if we can do those 3 things, your email will work, even if it doesn't follow the structure. And I know a lot of people struggle with this. And what I would say is use this template. Scott, is it fair to say that this is the same template you follow for like 80+% of emails that you use? 100%. You're just going to swap out the reasons and the call to action. And obviously it's going to have a different subject line because you're going to make that relevant to the rest of the email. So is that fair to say that it's 80-90% of what you're 100%. Doing is coming from that same structure?
Yeah. 100%. I mean, whenever I'm starting, I'm like, okay, it starts with subject line. And then from there, it starts with how am I going to start the email? And generally it's going to be like, why am I emailing you? So like I said, in the first part of this, right? Like one of my bullet points here to share with you is like, what is the reason for emailing? Okay. In this case, it was, I have this sweatshirt. It made me think because it's fall that I should put it on and I'm going to wear it because I'm a proud teacher. Right. And I want to show off my love for pumpkin spice. Right. And that's it. Like, that's the gist of it. Right now, how do I word this? Now, the other thing I do want to say, like, if I go back into here now, let me go ahead and bring this up again. So if you notice, I put this in here too, because I want people to know why I started this thing in the first place. Right. So I put here, it's funny because the reason I started my Etsy shop 3 years ago was to create teacher merch for myself. LOL. Now I get to share it with you and other proud teachers. Smiley face. So it's a way for me to say, like, I didn't start with this thing with just, I'm going to make a whole bunch of money. I started this thing because I wanted to create a sweatshirt for myself to wear to school. And then I said, you know what? There's people that would probably like to, maybe even you had people in your school that say, oh, I love that sweatshirt. I'd love to have one. I'm like, oh, I can make one for you. And then you threw it up on Etsy. Maybe that's what you did. Right. So this just, it gives a reason. It gives a little bit more of a backstory without telling a whole like 3-page thing about like why you started your business. You're just reminding them that you're just one person, why you started the thing, why you're passionate about the thing, and why you're emailing them. Right. It just really does come down to that. And it is pretty simple. You know, what we do have, it starts with that idea, right? It starts with the idea. And then I have here on my bullet points, so I'm going to kind of go through my bullet points. You need to write the email with 2 to 3 calls to action. So I went through that. With you guys. There's 2 in there. Sometimes I'll put 3. Okay. And usually the second one or the third one will be in the PS. So if you notice in this one here, and I'll go back to the other one too, but if you notice in this one here, it's just PS, right? If you haven't visited my shop lately, you should probably go over there and check it out, because I've been creating some new fall and Halloween and Christmas stuff. And I'm also reminding them that there's some fall stuff coming. There's Halloween stuff coming, and there's Christmas stuff coming. And then what do I do here? Another call to action, right? And if we look, let's go back to this one here. This was the other email. Okay. So if I go back here and we look at this one, okay, we're going to go, okay, recently I created a new sweatshirt that I'm naming Pumpkin Spice Teacher. And it was inspired by my love for everything pumpkin spiced. Okay. Go here to check it out. There's also, and then I give them 8 fall colors for this new design. And I love all of them. Happy fall, y'all. Another personality piece, right? And then boom, look at, I've also been busy creating some new Christmas items, adding them to my Etsy shop here. Okay. And so there you go. Right. And here I just throw this in. I'm adding lots of other items for the classroom too. Your kids will love them. Right. That's it. Like, that's it. So there's personality mixed in, but there's also calls to action. And this place right here, this PS, people will not put a PS in there. And to me, that's a way. So this one here goes directly to the listing. This one goes directly to the entire shop. Right? So this one dumps them into the entire shop. This one dumps them into the listing. And usually I'll do that in the PSs. I'll drive that one right to the main shop. And that's it. Okay. Again, following up my bullet points. So here's the other thing that I wanted to make sure that you guys were aware of. So I send one email and then I wait 24 hours. Okay. And then you can do this with Everbee email, by the way, which, by the way, I don't even know if we mentioned this in the beginning. If you want that email guide, just put email in the comments and we'll send you a copy of the email playbook. It walks you through how we build the email list and also how we're using email marketing. So if you want that, just in the comments, put email. I should have mentioned that earlier, but I just remembered. But the big thing here is like Everbee email is who we're using. And what happens here is we are able to now, after 24 hours, there's a little button on the bottom and it says send to unopens. Why would we want to do that?
Because we just really like annoying people. But I think the real reason is because even if you get a great open rate, Scott, even if you're doing something that everybody wants to see, say you have, let's just use the number of 100, because you're always going to see open rate as a percentage. So you got 100 people on that list. You're going to get 30 or 40% of those. So 30 or 40 people using that as the number to open that email. That means there's 60 or 70 people who haven't seen that message yet. The easiest way to get them to see it is just to get another chance at it. And we don't have to rewrite a totally different email. Maybe we just change the subject line a little bit, because there's really 2 reasons why somebody might not open it. One, because you sent it and then it got buried by a bunch of other emails that came in. Or 2, the subject line didn't create that connection piece, right? It didn't capture their attention. And by changing up that subject line, we can get another 10, 15, 20%, or in this case, 10, 15, or 20 people to open that just by swapping that subject line out and keeping the rest of the email the same. So we can go from 30 or 40% to 50, 60, or even 70% of people who will see that message just by clicking that resend to unopens button. Not any more work for us other than maybe 15, 30 seconds to go, is there a different way that I can phrase this subject line? I'm going to send them the same email. They haven't seen it yet because they didn't open it the first time. So we're not going to annoy anyone because they haven't seen it. And it gives them the opportunity then to either open it because they connect with that subject line, or it gives them the chance to see it before it gets buried again by the other emails that they're going to get. So that resend to unopens, what we've noticed over and over again through all of the different brands that we've used this on, is that that picks up another 10, 15, 20% in most cases, just by clicking the button and taking an extra 10 or 15 seconds to rewrite the subject line. So we're able to pick up not just more people seeing the message, but another 10, 15, 20% of sales as well, because they're going to convert around the same rate as they would of the people who opened it originally. So why not take the extra few seconds, click that button, and add 10, 15, 20% to what it is that you are doing.
Well, and that's the cool thing, right? You're not annoying people because the people that are seeing it now didn't open it. Now they might have saw the email in there. They might have like passed through, right? And go, oh, email, I don't have time to open that right now. And then it gets buried and then they never see it. And then the next day you change that title, the subject line just a little bit. And then all of a sudden they're going to open it. And so, I mean, every single time, minimum of 8%. But like you said, Chris, we've gotten as much as 10, 15, or 20% more on top of the initial 20, 30% from the initial one. So you would have missed out on all of those people seeing your message. That's how I picked up that additional order actually from yesterday, because yesterday's email, yesterday was Tuesday. Yesterday was an unopened day. So basically Monday, the email went out. Tuesday was the unopens. Okay. And then we picked up another order from that, just from sending to the unopens. We didn't annoy the people that already opened. They already opened. They're done until Wednesday. And then Wednesday, we're going to send another one. This morning, we sent another email. Okay. So really important. So, and then the fifth thing is, and this one's really, really complicated. It's called rinse and repeat. It means do the damn thing again. Like we already did it. It's working. Why not do it again? Now, there are promotions. Like right now, we're in the middle of one of our launch profit push campaigns. We have this campaign that we run, and I run it in brand creator stuff. I run it in this business of my wife's. I run it. Chris has run it with some consulting clients. We've run it in other businesses that we've had. It's pretty much standard. Now, does it change shape a little bit? Yeah. If you're going to do a 5-day promotion, it's going to be, it's going to be built around 5 days. If it's going to be 3 days, it's going to be compressed. If it's going to be 7 days, we're going to broaden it out. But basically, the formula is we got to send emails, but we need to have the reason. Okay. We need to have the reason for sending the email. All right. The second thing is we need to write the email so people will actually get value from it, and they're not going to feel like you're just trying to sell them. And we want to include some calls to action in there. Some, hey, go here to check it out. Okay. We don't say go here to buy it. That's never in there. Go here to add to cart. We never add that. It's always go here to see it. Go here to check it out. Go here to grab yours, like something like that. Okay. A little bit more loose. All right. And then we're going to wait 24 hours. And then from there, we're going to send to the unopens, and then we're going to rinse and repeat. We're going to do it again. All right. And I know you're like, well, I don't know if you're creating new products, there's the reason. Right. And so there was a product that my wife was working on for the last 2 weeks. Okay. This one here was a bigger project, but it had so much more potential with demand. So she spent the time. You guys know I talk about having more demand all the time. This one here has the possibility to go really big because it's a little bit broader, but it's still within our niche. Okay. This is also an item that we might play around with advertising it on Facebook and do Facebook ads. So she spent more time on it, but we were able to now announce it to the list. And guess what? We talk about doing our little, launch. So this way here, we can kind of go through these launch phases. And I've talked about this on the podcast and on, the YouTube channel, is where, we find the break-even point, we reduce the price, we run a sale, and then we send it, we send it out the door and we get traffic coming to it. Well, one of those traffic streams is email. And so now I have a great reason to keep emailing people, because I'm like, hey, this thing's happening. And then I remind them about it midweek. And then I remind them at the end, hey, it's going to end. Right. And then we're able to get an influx of sales. What does that do? It helps us sell more. So that way there we can start showing up in rankings, right? In page 1, because now Etsy's looking at it and going, whoa, this thing's selling. Maybe we should pay attention. And then they're going to look at the optimization that we did with our SEO. And then from there, we're going to get reviews, and that's going to help us convert higher. And it just builds. Okay. But man, wouldn't it be nice to have an email list that you could write to and basically get sales almost automatically? Like, I can't guarantee you're going to get sales, but I think every single time that I've sent an email, I've gotten at least one order, like minimum, like one order coming through. And it took me less than 10 minutes. And it did, hurt these big fingers of mine, right? It just cramped me up a little bit because I don't like typing, right? But now I've got like little templates kind of built and stuff, so I can kind of plug them in and play around with them. So I got to do minimal, but 130 words, 130 words. I think anyone can come up and, put themselves through the torture of writing 130 words. So that's what I got for you guys for the simple Etsy promotion strategy that made $897. Wait, hold on. It was actually more than that. It was $929 with 21 orders, all done through email. And once again, guys, if you want help with this, we've got an email guide. Just put email in the comments. We'll send you a copy. We are going to be coming out pretty soon. We haven't officially announced it yet, though, but we are going to be coming up with a little plug and play email template system for Etsy sellers. That's coming. It will be something that we're going to be charging for. It won't be crazy, but it is something that we've been asked for, and we're going to actually put something together because I think this is a game changer for people that are on Etsy. They're just starting. They're trying to compete on just organic SEO. They're trying to use Etsy ads. That stuff's all great, by the way. But man, if you can throw your own traffic behind it and get a boost in sales and spike the algorithm, you're going to have an advantage. You're just going to have an advantage. That's all I can say. Chris, do we have any questions on that? And we'll probably do a quick little recap today on this just to kind of walk you through those 5 bullet points again. But Chris, do we have any questions on that?
Yeah, we had a few. I think the first one was about how to make sure that you can write this. And you were talking about making sure, that you don't hurt your little fingies writing 130 words. But even if you can't come up with it, right, you can take that template, drop it into Claude, ChatGPT, Google Gemini, whatever makes you happy, and say, hey, can you rewrite this to be for insert your niche, insert your reason, and it will kick you out a copy or 2 or 5 that you can at least work from. And then maybe you go in, you workshop it a little bit, tweak a few words, but then you really only have to write 5 or 10 if that's what you want to do. But once you get this template down, it's easy enough. And Scott, I think the longest one you had in that example was like 8 to 10 minutes was what it took you to write. And that's with you going like this.
Yeah,
right?
Literally.
Scott's a hunter and a pecker when it comes to keyboards. And so if you're a fast typer, it's going to take you like 3 to 5, right?
Yeah.
For Scott, he doesn't like typing, and that's
Right.
why he uses this format. And it turns out this format works really well. And we had a bunch of people saying, hey, like, how do I stop my emails from going to spam or promotions? That was one variation of that question. And that's kind of the thing that's really cool with this style of email, because you're writing it exactly like you would write to a friend. You're going to massively limit that. Now, is it going to work every time if you put a bunch of exclamation points in there? No, but if you follow the same format that you would use when you're sending it to a friend, you're going to avoid that. Where people tend to end up in spam or promotions is when they start dropping in a bunch of images, a bunch of different font colors and sizes, right? You would never do that if you're emailing to a friend. And that's what Google is looking for. That's what Hotmail is looking at. That's what Yahoo is looking at when they're looking at those different filters. And so if you use the format and the style that we were talking about here today, not only does it actually get delivered to people, but it gets opened at a higher rate and it has a higher click-through, right? Meaning you're going to get more people to go to your listing or to your shop, depending on what that call to action is, which is the entire reason we're doing that anyway, is to drive the traffic over. So why not make it easier on ourselves? Spend 5 to 10 minutes writing this style of email instead of worrying about getting everything exactly perfect and beautifully designed and all of those kinds of things, because it actually turns out that that's worse performing than this style is anyway. So save yourself the time, the energy, the effort, and just do it this way.
Yeah, I got a question for anyone that's here with us live or on the replay. Let us know, are you using email marketing right now in your Etsy shop? Are you driving traffic there? And by the way, anyone that is still thinking to themselves like, man, I don't really know if you're supposed to be doing this. Is Etsy cool with it? Etsy created what they call share and save links for you. Okay. For you. And They want to reward you for sending traffic to them. And if that means sending an email, they're going to be okay with it. The only thing they do not want you to do is they do not want you to have a customer come through. You take their email address on the back end and then put it into a program and email them. They do not want you to do that. We're not suggesting that you do that. Everyone that is on our email list has raised their hand and basically entered their name and email address and said, I want you to basically email me with stuff about this niche, right? That's it. Okay. And the cool thing is like when people are on your list and if you're emailing and they don't want to get any more emails, guess what? There's an unsubscribe button right there at the bottom. Or if they reach out to you and go, hey, can you take me off your list? You're like, no problem. And then you know what you do? You know how easy it is? You go down to the bottom of the email that they forwarded you and you go and you hit the unsubscribe for them. It's literally that simple. You're like, oh, you didn't want to take the 1 second to scroll down and hit unsubscribe? No problem. I'll do it for you. Right. And then you just unsubscribe them and say, thank you for being on my list for however long. Right. Like, thank you. Part as friends. Not a big deal. Right. And so that's really important that you understand, like, the email list is such an asset. Here's another thing. Let's say, for example, Etsy does suspend your account. Let's just say it happens. What are you going to do? You got nothing. But if you have an email list, you got something. And then guess what? Let's say you wanted to fire up a Shopify site and you wanted to do it in a weekend. And you wanted to take all your products and you wanted to basically now put them on that Shopify. Now, before that would happen, I would advise you to basically try to get your products over onto Shopify before you get suspended, because I'm not quite sure that you would still have access to those. You might. I don't know. I've never been suspended, knock on wood. But if that is the case, then you wouldn't have access. You could probably go into Printify where they're hosted, and you could probably download a bunch of stuff there. I don't know. But the thing is, we have that asset that I can drive it anywhere I want. Okay. I'm just basically changing that link in that email to go to my website or to go to, my Shopify store or Amazon or wherever you want to send them. You can do that. That's the cool thing. But if you don't have that asset, you got nothing. Right. So I would rather build the asset, use the asset to drive traffic over to Etsy while I'm there. And while, they're saying, yeah, keep selling. And then I'm going to be able to use that asset to launch products, get higher in the search rankings because I'm doing good SEO. I'm optimizing, I'm getting reviews, right? And I'm converting higher. And now I'm going to be rewarded by Etsy because I'm getting more sales. We all know that if you get more sales, Etsy's going to push you regardless, right? They're going to push you because they want to make more sales as well, right? So email, I can't say enough about it. I needed to share this with you because I'm practicing what I preach. I'm using email. I use it on Brand Creators. Someone in the comments said, yeah, I read one of your emails this morning and it looks like you're following the same format. Yep. Same format, right? Like it's what I do. You can call it cookie cutter. Not really, because I still just follow a formula and it's still fresh. But it is a framework, right? I got to have an intro. I got to have a little bit of personality, a little bit of a story, right? And then boom, we go into why I'm emailing you. And then we go into a call to action. And then we kind of reiterate why I emailed you. And then we close out with something like, have a great day, whatever. And then there's a PS. And then that PS is usually either something about the thing that I mentioned earlier or about something else that I didn't have time to say in the email up above, right? Literally that simple. All right. So with that being said, if we don't have any more questions, we could do a quick little recap of that segment. And Chris, do you want me to do the breakdown today or?
Yeah, go for it. Before we do that though, there were two other ones that popped in. The first is there any difference if we're in Europe? And the answer is not really. You can still send emails. They still have to opt in, but you do have to give them an extra checkbox to say, I really, really, really want to do that, just to make sure that you're GDPR compliant. In the US and most of the rest of the world, they just have to say, yes, I'd like to hear from you. In the European Union, they have to say, yes, I want to hear from you. And also, yes, I'm really, really, really sure I want to hear from you. And it just gives that extra little checkbox. The other one that snuck in here, Scott, was from Justina. She said, did Aweber or whatever it was called that Etsy was connected to in the past not ask the buyer for permission? So they did, and they still used what they called a two-step opt-in. But what you used to be able to do was email anyone to ask if they wanted to be part of that. And that Aweber integration, before Etsy changed their terms of service around a little bit, would just go out to everybody and say, hey, do you want to be on this email list, basically. Etsy got rid of that at the beginning of 2024, and now you just have to ask people, and they will opt in to hear from you. And Scott, if people are just putting up an email capture on their page, right? So they're saying, hey, sign up for our email list, get 20% off. And I think it was EcoTour who said, I have my email list. It's on my about page. I email people about it. I put it on my Instagram, Facebook, X, right? But I'm not really getting any signups. Is a 20% discount for things I have that are already made in my store, is that enough? Or is there a better way that we can do a call to action to start bringing some people onto the list?
Yeah. I mean, typically 20% is going to be solid if it's something that they actually want. Right. And I think last week we shared the wild salmon company that I purchase from quite frequently. And when you go to that page, it'll say, hey, get 20% off your first order. Well, I already went there because I want to buy some wild salmon. So if they're going to give me 20%, you bet your butt I'm going to go ahead and put my email address in there because I want to get the 20% off of a $100 order. That's $20. Right. So of course I'm going to do that. So I think it does come down to, like, you might be putting it on Instagram and you might be putting it on a TikTok and all these, but are they interested, right? Are they actually an interested potential buyer? And so I think that's what it comes down to. The other thing that we have had really good success with is not just offering the discount. So yes, you're going to get less people to go through and do that if you're putting it on your announcement or in your announcement on your Etsy shop in an image slot. You're putting it in a description. You're going to get less people that are going to do that. You'll probably get more people, though, if you have a customer that is receiving their first message through Etsy that you can customize, and then you can invite them to your VIP club. You'll probably get a few more that way. And actually, they're a better email subscriber to have because they've purchased. But the best way that we have found, and the fastest way to build a bigger list, and I don't mean massive, but bigger, like 500 emails in one round, and that is doing a giveaway, because we're clearly putting something in front of the audience because we're targeting them. And then we're saying, like, hey, here's these 3 or 5 things, if you're interested in these, we're doing a giveaway, throw your name in the hat. And then you get people to throw their name in the hat. Sure, some of those people are going to bounce out and they're going to say, okay, after I entered and I didn't win, I'm going to leave. Okay, that's fine. But you're going to get a good portion of them that are going to stay. And then once they stay, we know that they're interested. They're probably going to eventually buy something if we have something that they're interested in, and if we're serving the same niche, if we're not bouncing all over the place. So I just think it comes down to, is the thing that you're offering something that they actually want to buy or are almost ready to buy? And then you're putting that thing in front of them. If you don't have big traffic numbers there, that number is it's going to take a long time to build that. That's why we like the giveaway model. I did want to bring this up, though, because I know some people had mentioned, well, one person mentioned the Aweber thing, and people also want to know, like, what you use. That's why we're a big fan of Everbee. I'm going to throw a little shameless plug in here. If you are not using an email provider yet, this is the one I would recommend. And there's a bunch of different reasons, but I'll give you the high level. Number one, it's integrated, meaning if you want to pull in some of your products into an email, you literally just check a box. It'll pull in your best sellers or something. Now, I wouldn't do that right out of the gate because, like Chris said, in order to get through the spam filters and the promotion tab, we can't have a lot of HTML, basically images and links. I would save that for when your email list is more mature and also where you've established that relationship. Okay. And I wouldn't do it all the time. All right. So I'd keep that, we call it the naked email, where it's got like very, very little going on in it. Like maybe one link in the very beginning, and then maybe no images. And maybe you wait to send an image, 3 months down the line, or maybe never. We very rarely put an image in there. And then some people would say, well, yeah, but don't you want to show people the product? No, I want them to wonder what it is and click on the link to go see it. Right. That's another reason why we don't put an image in there, but it also helps with that. But Everbee, if you haven't checked it out yet, brandcreators.com/Everbee. If you go there, just go find the email tab, click on that, sign up. and start building your email list. You can build landing pages in there. You can start doing the VIP, like we suggest, where you're going to put your link for your landing page in there, offer your 20% or offer 20% off your first, and then you're in our VIP club. And then also, if you are going to build a giveaway through what we teach, again, that's going to be inside of the email playbook. If you want that, just put email in the comments and we'll send you that. But once you get these email addresses, now we just import them into Everbee email, and then we're basically emailing them inside of Everbee email. Then we can see all the stats. We can see the open rate, the click-through rate. We can also then resend to unopens. That's a feature that's built in there. So all of that inside of Everbee email. If you haven't started with email, or even if you have, I would use Everbee email. That's what we're using, and we're really liking it. And there's a bunch of stuff that they're working on that I'm excited. I can't share yet, but it's just evolving. So it's going to get even better. So heading into Q4, start building that email list, start using email. I definitely highly recommend that. All right, Chris, do we want to do a little recap here?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, cool. And if you guys have any more questions, drop them in there. We do have a couple other things, though. I want to kind of put these up here. So I'm going to do a recap right now for anyone that's going to watch this later. We're going to actually shoot this, and then we're going to put it up as an individual video as we do, because some people don't want to wait or sit through 40, 50 minutes. So that's fine. So we're going to create a little recap here. So if you guys are just tuning in, I'm going to actually go through this a little faster, actually a lot faster. But we are going to be talking about something that just happened the other day. This is another big thing in increasing your conversions. I was in the car with my wife the other day. She's like, "Yeah, I got a 1-star review the other day." I'm like, "No kidding." She's like, "Yeah," and she's like, "I couldn't believe it. Like the lady didn't even reach out to me or anything." She goes, "But I reached out to her and I had her, or she didn't have her, but she basically made it right to where she changed the review to a 4-star. So it went from a 1-star to a 4-star." I'm like, "All right, wait a minute, time out. What did you say?" And then so she told me, and I go, "All right, just freeze that. Send me what you said over into an email to me, and I'm going to share it this week on the live." So I'm going to share that coming up. So how she was able to, and she's done this numerous times, 1-star to a 4-star. It's not a 5, but it's better than a 1. All right. And I'll share exactly what she had said in that email and in that response. So sit tight for that. And we've got a couple of other topics that we're going to be discussing here that are pretty interesting in the old e-commerce world and in Etsy world. So hang tight for that. All right, Chris, I'm going to go ahead and tee this one up. Again, guys, if you already sat through that other, it's going to be a little bit of a recap. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get rocking and rolling here. Actually, Chris, let me make sure that my slide deck is where I want it. So that way there, I can share that. Let me see here. All right, cool. We're good. We're good to go. Here we go. All right. All right. What I'm about to share with you is what I call my ATM Etsy sales promotion system. I know it's kind of fancy, but it's true. I actually use this to generate 20 orders and over $800 in sales within 10 minutes of work. Yes, I know, crazy. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to walk you through it. There's actually 5 things that I'm going to share with you that made this possible. I'm also going to share with you an example of what it looked like and how I was able to do this. So let me just kind of spit it out right now. What I'm talking about is email. Email marketing is huge. And I don't know what the number is, but it's going to be less than probably 5% that are actually using email marketing the way that we're using it. And it's a huge advantage because, well, Etsy, they do want us to drive our own traffic. For those of you that are wondering, well, Etsy doesn't want you to drive traffic using email. That's wrong. They want you to get permission to send emails. They actually created a program called Share and Save. They actually give you a link that you can track now. And I'm going to show you what that looks like because I actually used the Share and Save link, and you can see that the sales are tracked, and you can see how much money I actually saved in fees. All right. So they do want you to. You just have to get permission in order to send emails. All right. Now, I do have an email playbook that will walk you through how we build our email list. Yes, some of it's inside of Etsy, but a majority of it is outside of Etsy. And we use what we call our giveaway model or our fishbowl model. And again, if you want all the details on that, it's free. Just put email in the comments and I'll send you a copy. All right. So with that being said, let me get into it. And I'm going to go ahead and pull up my slides here. So this way here, I can share with you what this looks like. All right. So there's my good buddy, Chris Schaefer, who's going to walk through this with me. There he is. And so here's the cool thing, right? This is very, very simple. Okay. And that's why I put simple email strategy, because it is super, super simple. There's nothing hard about this. And take it from me that did not do good in school, was not a good writer, not a good typer. Even to this day, I use these two fingers. That's about all I use. And I'm able to do it. And it works. But this right here, okay, this little system, I sent 3 emails. Okay. 3 emails is what I sent. All right. And all I did was, the hard part was writing the email. Okay. I wrote this email and I'm going to show you what the email looks like. So don't worry. All right. Wrote the email. I sent it to my email list. I used the share and save link and I sent it to the Etsy listing that I wanted to promote. Okay. Now I said 20 orders before I actually got on here to do this video. It was 20 orders. I checked now. It's actually 21 orders and it went up to $929. And here's that share and save little feature. They basically said, hey, you know what? We'll give you back $37.15 because you drove your own traffic. And we thank you for that, Scott. We thank you. And so I'll take it. That's like a nice lunch for my wife and I, $37.15. All right. So now you probably want to know what kind of emails we're sending. Well, let me go ahead and I'm going to share with you one email. There was 3, but I'm going to share one of the more recent ones that I sent. All right. And let me go ahead and get down here. Okay. Now this one here was 135 words. Let me say that again, 135 words. Chris, do you think you could write a 135 word email?
Oh, I know I can.
You could probably do it faster than me, correct?
Probably, because I'm not going to be hunting and pecking letter for letter like you do. So the thing that's funny, Scott, you don't do that when you text, but you do that on a regular keyboard, which is where you're typically doing this. I have, I'm a touch typer, I guess is what it's called, right? I don't have to necessarily look at the keyboard, but even I can write 135 words. I might be able to do it faster than 10 minutes, but it's going to be in that range, right? Because I'm going to think about it a little bit, and then I'm going to write what I have to say. But yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, let's get into it. So here's my first thing I want to share with you. Okay. We got to have a reason to do this. Number one, we got to have a reason. Okay. And the reason here, you'll see here as we get into the email, but the reason is I want to let people know that I've got something either new or I have something that I want to bring to their attention because of something that happened in my life that day or that week, right? So it's a personal message. Okay. So the subject line, this is one of the most important pieces. So pay attention here, is it says, this teacher needed this. Now imagine that I'm in the teacher's niche. That's what we're going to be focusing on here. All right. This can be adapted to any niche, by the way. If you're a gardener, if you're a horse lover, it doesn't matter. Okay. It can be used in any niches. And I've used it in multiple niches in various businesses. And this has generated 6 and 7 figures throughout my career. Okay. So that's the first thing. The next thing is we're opening with, hey friends, very personal. This is not a business. It is a business, but it's not a business email. All right. It's not your typical Best Buy email that you would get, or Untuck It, or, Bulletproof Coffee. It's not your typical one. It's more, hey, it's me. I own an Etsy shop, right? Like it's just me, just little old me, right? That's it. Okay. So it's, hey friends. And then I go on to say, this morning, put me in a fall mood with cool temperatures and a slight breeze. Okay. And then I put here, it made me want to break out my pumpkin spice makes this teacher nice sweatshirt for the college football game I'm attending this afternoon, which is a true story. We attended a football game, a college football game. Now, again, let me time out for a second. This is my wife writing, by the way. I'm writing in her voice. She gives me permission to do this, by the way. And I run most of them by her, but this one here, I don't think I did, but I know that she does like pumpkin spice coffee. That's a big deal to her. Everything pumpkin spice. So I just took with what I know that what we were doing, right? And so then here I put this little piece in. It's funny because the reason I started my Etsy shop 3 years ago was to create teacher merch for myself. LOL, right? So let's pretend I'm a teacher. I'm creating my own merch for myself. And I'm like, I should start an Etsy shop. Like, how many people have done that? A lot, right? And it's like, oh, cool. So I shared that to let people know it's small, it's personal, and this is why I did that. And I put a little LOL to make it fun. Okay. Then I said, now I get to share it with you and other proud teachers. Smiley face. No emojis. It's a smiley face, old school. Okay. Now this one here, I'm going to change the color to this one because this one here is really, really important. And green reminds me of money. So that's what I want to have here. So you can check out my pumpkin spice makes this teacher nice sweatshirt here. And that's a link. That link, share and save. So now they click on that and they're going to be taken over there and they're going to be tracked for a sale. Okay. And then I'm going to get credit for it through Etsy. Okay. Then I wrap up here and I say, and it's on sale at the moment too. Have a great weekend and I'll talk to you soon. Lisa, proud teacher. And then I put in here, P.S. This is another important piece. P.S. If you haven't visited my Etsy shop lately, I've created some new designs for fall, Halloween, and Christmas. Go here to see my latest designs. Okay. Now, that little call to action there is going directly to the store. That one there is not necessarily just going to a listing. So what's cool about this is this one here going directly to a listing. Okay. That's going directly to a listing. And this one here is going directly to the shop. So if someone wasn't interested in the pumpkin spice makes this teacher nice sweatshirt, they might want to see what we've got in there for fall, fall, Halloween, and Christmas, right? So it's another call to action. And that's it. That's the email. That's as complicated as it needs to be. All right. Now, let me go ahead and, like I said, I was going to give you guys those 5 steps, right? Those 5 things. So let me go ahead and let me kind of go through these here so we can wrap this thing up. Once again, if you would like help with this, with email, put email in the comments and I'll send you our email marketing guide, which goes through also how we build our list. All right. So the very first thing, we need a reason for emailing. Okay. Maybe it's a new product. Maybe it's a new product. Maybe it's a product that you've been working on for a while. Maybe it's a re-release. Maybe it's just you're having a special because you're happy that day. Doesn't matter. You just need a reason. The second thing is write the email with 2 to 3 calls to action, including a PS to the entire shop. So if you're brand new, I would say max 2 calls to action, 2 links, because we want that email to get delivered. Okay. 3, send the email. And this is a big one here. Send the email and wait 24 hours. And then step 4 is send to the unopens. Okay. So think about this. You sent the email out 7 a.m. in the morning. The following day, you got 20 or 30% of people to open that email. The rest of those people never saw the email. Why discard that? Why not send them an email and say, hey, I just want to make sure you saw this. I sent this yesterday, right? We do that and we'll get anywhere from 8% all the way up to an extra 20% of people. All right. And you're missing out if you're not doing that. That's a little ninja tip there. Now, how are we doing that? We use Everbee email. Everbee email has it built inside. We send the email and at the very bottom, it basically says resend to unopens. Okay. Now, if you would like to try Everbee, head on over to brandcreators.com/email. Or I'm sorry. No, not that one. Go to Everbee, brandcreators.com/Everbee. Go to that one. That will take you over there where you can go ahead and try out Everbee. All right. Now, the last thing is, and this is a big one. This is where people kind of drop the ball. So pay attention. This is where we want to rinse and repeat. We want to do it again. And we want to do it again and again. And you might be saying, well, Scott, I don't know what else I'd be able to send. You're always creating new products, or you're always running a new sale, or you're maybe instead of a new product, you're adding a new color that you added to a sweatshirt, or maybe it's a new blanket that you added from a design that you already created off of a shirt. There's always something that you're doing in your shop, most likely, and you can always bring attention to that. So That's what I would recommend. That's what we're doing. It's a huge advantage. If you're not using email, start using emails, and you'll probably see your sales increase. All right, Chris. I think that was a pretty good little recap there. We're blazing on through it. Got a little jammed up there with my link, but that's okay.
It's fine. It's how those things work. This is what
We'll
happens
bring
when we
that
do
up
it.
in post.
Yeah.
We got any questions on that?
On the general strategy, no, but there are a few steps to this, right? The first step is getting that open rate. That open rate really comes from the subject line we were talking about. But Fatty Pancake said, hey, I'm getting like a 20-30% open rate, but my click-through rate is low. So when we're talking about email, Scott, what is the reason that you might get a good open rate and not a good click-through rate?
Yeah, there's not enough reason for the person to click, right? And so, and we know Fatty Pancake, so, and we've done audits. If you want to send that to me, and you're cool with me looking at it and, you know, giving some feedback and maybe even sharing it with what I'm seeing. Like I said, we are going to be doing a little mini workshop that we're going to be also doing we're going to do like a plug and play email template pack that we're building right now. This might be a great lesson. And if you're cool with us sharing that, which I know you usually are, send that email my way. Because without seeing it, I can't really see where we're not leading to the click. Most of the time, it's a couple different reasons. One is you haven't put a link close enough to the top. Sometimes people are just going to look at the email, they're going to skim it, and then they're out. So we have to find a way that's going to get them curiosity-wise to want to click on that link. It's either curiosity or desire that they want that thing. So there might not be enough desire, or there might just be the wording in the link. So I would like to see that. That's all I can give you at this point in time because I don't see it. But yeah, if you want to send it my way, you know our email address. You can send it to scott@brandcreators.com or support@brandcreators.com. And maybe we can use that as a little teaching element to our little new program that we're going to be rolling out here soon, which I think would be very, very helpful.
She said, I'm 100% cool with that. I'll send what I have. There's only a few of them so far, but it's not going to be that deep. We don't need that many to see if we can figure out what that disconnection is. Obviously, they're wanting to hear from you. So the question that we need to answer now is, how do we make that connection with people so that they're not just opening that and wanting to hear from us, but going over to buy the things? Mm-hmm. And it may be in your case that you have so many different people looking for so many different things that we have to figure out a slightly different approach for you because you have a niche, but there's a lot of little tiny sub niches inside of that. And so that can be something we have to keep an eye out for, but we'll know once we take a look at it.
Yeah, Chris, before we move on though, I did want to highlight something here, right? So the one thing that stood out to me here was the word newsletter. I have a little bit of a problem with the term newsletter. And I'm not saying that has anything to do with your open rates or your clicks, but it will have something to do with your signups. If anyone right now is watching this and they have sign up to our newsletter, stop it, get rid of it, and change it like immediately, because your signups are going to, well, they're going to stink. Okay. They're not going to be good. There's no reason for people to sign up for a newsletter. No one cares about a newsletter. What they care about is getting the thing that they're signing up for. And in your case, it's probably going to be a 20% off discount or 25% off discount, whatever. Buy one, get one free. Give us your email address. We'll give you buy one, get one free, whatever it is. No one cares about a newsletter. Now, maybe that's not the case, but everyone that's thinking email, they're always like, yeah, I'm going to build a newsletter. It's not a newsletter, right? You're not like, hey guys, today in the world of gardening, I wanted to share with you my, the breaking news in gardening. Right? Like no one cares, right? What you want to do is you want to get people to sign up. We call it our VIP club because our VIP club is more than just a 20% off discount. You're going to get a 20% discount now, but you're also going to be, we're going to run giveaways and you're going to be able to participate in that. Maybe we're going to do a 30% or a 40%. Right now, we're running a 40% off on our launch special right now this week, 40% off and free shipping and handling. Why the heck would we do that? Because we're doing exactly what we teach. We talk about doing the product launch. If you're doing an in-demand product, we're in that right now. I'm in phase 1 of this right now. Okay. Just sent out the first email today. I think it was. No, I take that back. It was Monday. Sent out the first email that kicks off this little campaign. Okay. And people that signed up don't care about a newsletter. They care about, oh, this is exciting. I want to be part of the club. I want to get exclusive behind the scenes of these launches, or the design, the designing of it. Or I want to get, like these special releases of 40% off that no one else is going to get. Like, whatever it is, you got to make it special, not newsletter. Newsletters are so outdated, and no one cares about newsletters anymore. So hopefully I didn't go on too much of a rant there, Chris, but the newsletter thing just got me tweaking here a little bit.
Fatty Pancake got you. She said, don't worry. I just revamped newsletter, and now they can be part of the Fatty Cake.
Thank you.
Pack. Right. So I don't know if she did it right before that rant, if she did it during that rant, or if she
while
did
I'm on, she's over there typing,
just,
changing the verbiage. Right.
Here's the thing that I thought about. Right? But a lot of people will call it a newsletter even when it's not. And so one of the things that I think people lose out on is they say, hey, here's everything that's going on. If we can make an email a single purpose thing, that usually gets us much better return on our investment of time, energy, effort, and the goodwill that we burn on the customer side whenever we send an email, right? And so if we can make it something that's going to be useful for them, then we can do that. Newsletters, people are like, okay, cool. What's going on in the world of Fatty Pancake this week? Awesome. Not necessarily something that's going to lead to a click, but it is something that we need to watch out for, because it is the most commonly used terminology there.
Yep. Before we move on, Mohammed said, hey, am I the only one over here watching it? Maybe on Facebook. It looks like you're on Facebook right now. We don't get a lot of people over on Facebook that tune in, but we've had just over 100 people on here on this live. So, no, there's more people over on YouTube, I think. But you can hang out there. You're still watching the same stream. No big deal. And there's still people in the chat. You just can't see the chat because you're over on Meta, I guess. Should I start a newsletter? No, you shouldn't. You shouldn't start a newsletter. You should start building an email list. There's a
Jack in the shop just wanted to see if he could get you even more riled up.
Yeah, he's trying to get on. He's trying to get me riled up. Oops.
Fatty Pancake said, I rephrased it, and now it says, join us at the basking spot for all the hottest news, right? And that makes it really niche specific. She sells reptile and reptile related things, so people who are into the reptile world would really resonate with that, right? So that's something.
And that's another thing, though. I would like, Fatty Pancake, please send me your landing page as well. I want to look at that, because I think we can probably dial that in better, right? So hottest news, I don't know.
I think she was making a heat lamp joke.
Maybe. But yeah, send over whatever you have. I know that you're good for like us breaking stuff down for you and sharing and critiquing. And you're always one to implement. So definitely bring it over or send it over, because we are going to be rolling out, like I said, we're going to be doing like a little email writing workshop, which is along with our email templates that's coming. If you guys are on our email list, you'll hear more about it. So if you're not, you probably want to get on it. And you know how you get on our email list, Chris? You know how you do that? You basically put email in the comments. We'll send you a link to a landing page. You'll put your name and email address and say, I want the email playbook, and you're going to be on our email list. And guess what? If you don't want to be on our email list anymore, you can just hit unsubscribe. The same damn thing we're preaching here today, Chris.
Wait, Scott, so you mean not only do you follow the email templates for the stuff that we do for brand creators, but also that's how you're getting people onto the email list to begin with, is the same way that we were just talking about that works for Etsy shops?
Yeah, it's
weird.
Shocking.
I don't know that I can stand for that. I'm going to have to just
This is ridiculous.
I will not stand for this.
I will not stand
Elsie said,
for
what is the email app that you mentioned? We use Everbee email. If you go to brandcreators.com/Everbee, you'll not only get access to that, but you can buy Scott or myself a nice cup of coffee.
And we like our coffee. Yeah. All right, cool. We'll answer some more questions afterwards. Chris, if you want to star them, we are going to move on. I wanted to share this review thing because I think it's pretty big. Anybody here get a 1-star review ever? Has anyone here, and if you're watching this in the replay, let us know. And is it just us? Are we the only ones that get 1-star reviews? Would you like to turn that 1-star into a 4-star? I know 5-star would be better, but would 4-star be better? Would you be okay with that? Because if you are, well, you're going to want to pay attention, because this here is exactly what happened. And I'll share the story with you briefly, but I was in the car with my wife and she basically said, yeah, the other day I got a 1-star review. I'm like, really? How come? What was wrong? And she goes, the lady said the color was wrong. And I'm like, okay, just tell her you'll get her another color, or you'll get her the right color. And she goes, I know, but she left the review before I even had a chance to do that. And I'm like, okay. And I was like, so what did you do? She goes, well, I privately emailed her back. And I wrote her that I, wish that she would have, reached out to me first, and I could have made it right. And I will make it right. And she was able to get that lady to change her review from a 1-star to a 4-star. And I'm going to actually read that email to you guys here of that message that my wife had sent. So this way here, you can use this. One thing I want to share though, and this is really, really important. If this ever happens to you, okay, and you are getting a 1-star or a 2-star or even a 3-star, and you're like, I want to try to work this out with this customer before it's kind of like set in stone. What do I mean? If you comment on that review, it's locked. Nothing you're going to do. It's locked up. It's cemented. Okay. The only way is if you had someone in Etsy go in there and take that out for you, which isn't going to happen, my friends. Ain't going to happen. All right. So one thing you do not want to do is overreact and be like, I'm just going to message them on the review and ask them, like, what the problem is. Don't do that. Okay. There's a time that we're going to do that, but not yet. All right. So the course of action looked like this. I'll walk you through this, and then I'm going to share that email with you, the message, so you guys can have that kind of like as a little framework. And you'll see we didn't go and ask. I say my wife didn't say, hey, can you change that to a better review? She didn't say that. Didn't say any of that. You do not want to do that. You don't want to say, hey, I noticed you left me a 1-star. Can you leave me a 5-star? You don't want to do that. Okay. That's against the terms of service. You can't ask them to give you a better review. Okay. Or incentivize them to give you a better review. Okay. I'm also a very, very big believer in I will sacrifice profits from that sale every day of the week for a positive review. Because if I keep that positive review and it stays there, we all know you're going to see that review and you're going to be like, ooh, I don't know if I should buy from this place. They got a bad review, right? So I will sacrifice that. So if that means I got to give a refund, or if I got to give them an extra sweatshirt, like whatever, I'll do it. But so many people are like, but that's my profit. I don't want to do that. I'm telling you right now, you're going to lose way more profit because you have that negative review. So what we want to do is we want to try to handle that as soon as possible. And you can do it. And my wife has done it several times. That's why I said, hey, tell me what you said. I want to share this with my audience because I think it's going to be helpful. And she's like, well, it's not really that complicated. I'm like, I know, but a lot of people aren't doing it. And they might be commenting on the review and then cementing it. We don't want to do that either. Right. So basically this is what it looked like. She got the review. Immediately she went and found the customer and then reached out privately through Etsy Messenger. Okay. Through Etsy Messenger. And basically all that she said was, hey, I noticed that you left a negative review and I really wish that you would have reached out to me because I would have made it right. And I still can make it right. And from there found out that it was just a color issue. And she's like, I'll take care of it for you. And then the lady basically said back, awesome. I'll go change that review. And that was it. That's as complicated as it was. Let me show you the email. I'm going to go ahead and pull that up and we'll go ahead and we'll take a look at this here. Let me go ahead and pull it up. And that's not the one I want to share, but it's on that same slide deck. It is right here. Let me get rid of this. Where is that? I want to get rid of that. There we go. Here we go. All right. All right. So this is what it looks like. Hi, Susan. I'm sorry about the issue with your, actually, you know what? Let me get my little highlighter here. I like my little highlighter. I'm going to use that little highlighter again, Chris. Let me make it yellow. I want to make it yellow today. Let's make it yellow.
It's going classic.
Yeah, we're going to go classic highlighter. All right, here we go. So the message is pretty simple. It's basically, hi, Susan. I'm sorry about the issue with your sweatshirt. I know, groundbreaking, right? Goes on to say, I wish you would have messaged me before writing a negative review, as I never would want you to be upset or not satisfied. I realize you are probably disappointed and I want to make it right. As you can see by my positive reviews, I care about my customers and their experience and always provide excellent customer service. I can message the printer and tell them about the issue and have them reprint on the color you wanted. Let me know your thoughts and how I can make it right so you can be one of our happy customers too. Smiley face. Lisa. That's the message. Pretty straightforward, right, Chris?
I don't know. I mean, would you be able to write that?
Yeah, I'd be able to write that, but it was just pretty much nothing fancy. It's like, and again, like, I don't think you can, I think the hard part about this is people then they feel attacked or they feel, and they want to write an aggressive email. There's nothing aggressive about
you jerk. How dare you leave me a 1-star review and not contact me, right? And if we can use a template like this, first of all, take a step back. Scott, did you ever see the original Bad Boys or Bad Boys 2? Right?
I may
have
have,
Captain
but
all worked up, and they have him rub his ears and say "woosah," right, to calm him down. We got to take a meditation moment and say, okay, this is not a personal attack. Somebody's having a really bad day. Maybe give yourself a woosah moment, and then come back and say, all right, hey Susan, hey Billy, hey Leroy, hey Leon, hey Sam. Sorry you had a problem.
Yep.
Not my fault, right? You can scream that into the abyss, but don't put that in the email, right?
Right.
If you ever have an issue in the future, just message me again and we can help you get it taken care of. Here's what we can do to help you out right now. And then because I'm helping you, would you be willing to do it? Not everybody's going to go in and change it. But if you're nice to them and you don't say, you big fat jerk, you're going to get a good number of them to go in and be able to change that. And that's all it really takes. And you can use that same exact format for everybody. And that'll help you avoid the, you're a big fat jerk. Please fix your review because clearly it's UPS's fault and not mine, or clearly it's Royal Mail's fault and not mine. Did you even look at the tracking information, dummy?
Yeah.
Right? We have to avoid that. If we can use that format that you just showed, it's very easy to get those changed. Now, are they going to change it to a 5-star review every single time? No. But if you can get it from a 1 to a 3, that's better. If you can get it from a 1 to a 4, that's even better. And occasionally they will say, hey man, great customer service, 5 stars. I had an issue. They fixed it for me. They go in, they change the review.
Yep. Well, and the thing I want to say here is, like, if all you had was 5-star reviews, that could look a little fishy too. So having a 4-star, and then reading it. Now, here's the other piece here that I want to wrap this up with. Okay. And which is really, really important. Now that the review is changed, we want to cement it. So now what do? They've changed the review. They probably wrote in there, the owner, the shop owner did a great job and made the mistake there, or they fixed the mistake. And so then now they're basically saying, like, this, this shop owner did a great job. And now I want to go ahead and I want to cement it. So how do I do that? I comment and go, thanks so much, Susan, for being so understanding. And I'm glad that we were able to make you into one of our happy customers, right? Smiley face. Cement. Now it's in there, not changing it. She's not, we're not, no one's changing it. So now what we want, again, at that point, is we want to make sure that we do respond to that, because then it shows that we did have a conversation. So that means that we are communicating with our customers. And it also shows that we made it right. And we turned this person into a happy customer. All right. So here's the recap on this. This is what you'll do and what you won't do. All right. First thing is, do not respond to the review until you've reached out to your customer and you've tried to figure out what the problem was. Also, little side note, if it comes down to you having to refund them and send them one for free, send it. All right. That right there is losing the profit on that, losing the money on that, or even it costing you $25, $30. That positive review is going to help you get so many more sales in the future than that one sale. So you have to put that behind you and just say, what is it going to take to get this review removed, or to get it to be where it's now a positive review? Then follow up with that customer and try to figure out how you're going to make them happy, and then do whatever it takes. Then from there, once they change it, if they change it, immediately go in and thank them and cement it. All right. And that's how you can take a 1-star review and turn it into a 4 or even a 5-star review. All right, Chris.
Amy in the chat brings up something interesting. She said, if you fix the problem and the customer is happy but doesn't change their review, what's a good public response? And I would say it's very similar to what you would do if they don't get back to you. And that's the other situation you might run into is they leave you a 1-star review. They say, you're a big fat jerk and you sent me the wrong thing. You go, that's exactly what you ordered, right? Obviously, we're not going to write that. But if they don't respond to you, you still want to respond to that review and cement that you are responding.
Yes.
So in the case of them not getting back to you after you've reached out a few times, you comment, you say, hey, I've been trying to reach out to you, right? Here's what we could have done if you would have responded to me. And that's good enough for most customers to understand that that guy's probably a jerk and he's not paying attention. If they are happy, then you say, I'm glad we were able to resolve this issue for you. Thanks so much. Right. You know, we were able to get you the right size after we figured it out, whatever the solution was that made them happy. And you can still respond to that review. People are going to know that it was resolved and that it's not really a problem. And so all we have to do is we still would go in eventually and cement that review with our response. We don't want a 1-star review to sit there without a response. And I think, Scott, this is something you and I saw recently in a shop audit where people were going in and they were replying to all of the positive reviews, but none of the negative ones. So they get a 5-star, they'd be like, hey, glad you enjoyed it. And they'd respond to that. But any of the ones that they had an issue with, they never responded to. At some point, we just have to call it a lost cause and respond. Because what you can do is, even if it's a 1-star review, when you go in and say, hey, I reached out to you, I tried to resolve this for you, when the next customer who is one of those people who looks just at 1- and 2-star reviews goes through and starts to look, they say, hey, if I have a problem, even if they don't think the original person is a little bit of a jerk for whatever their complaint was, if I have a problem, I know that Scott's going to reach out to me and help me resolve it, or Chris is going to reach out to me and help me resolve it. So that 1-star review becomes irrelevant based on the response. But we always want to try to get it changed by reaching out to the customer first. If they are happy with the solution, then we put that in the final response to them, whether they update the review or not. If they never get back to us, then we let customers know that we reached out to them repeatedly. They never got back to us. And that if they do get back to us, we can still help them resolve that problem down the road. Does that make sense, Scott?
Yeah, no, that's great. And I would say, you know, the public response is super important if you don't get a response, because then it at least shows that you touched it and you saw it and you tried to address it. But, you know, and then, I mean, we all do it, right? Like I'll look at reviews and I'll be like, oh, that person just seemed like they were kind of picky. You know what I mean? Like I'll do that all the time. I'm like, that doesn't bother me. Like, I don't care that it was like that, or, oh, like someone thought it was bigger. Okay, whatever. Someone did message or did say in the comments, like they had a couple of reviews where people thought it was smaller than they thought. Then that's an easier issue to kind of fix up front. And that would is like, try to your best. And I know you said that you shot some more images, but maybe they're just not it's not demonstrating the size of it. And we've all seen it where people will take a quarter and then set it next to something because everyone knows how big a quarter is, right? So you want to do something like that that can hopefully help with that. And I know you said like micro or it's mini, but people, they can't see that because yes, they hear micro mini, but micro mini could be, you know, like it could be this big. It could be a tiny little speck. Like we don't know. But to see it visually, I think that could help with that. So anytime that you're having reviews and you can see that it's a problem, that people are they're not understanding something, that becomes now, or you have to convey that through images or a video. So yeah. All right, Chris, we've got a couple other topics we wanted to cover. Do we have any other quick questions, or do we want to just jump right into those?
Let's just jump into the next topic.
All right, cool. I am going to set you up for this one because I think you have the post.
Yeah, let me see if I can get this pulled up on my side here.
Oh, that was the other one too. Do you have the video that you can play of that that girl in the vertical form?
Let me see if it will let me.
I was able to play it. Bear with us, guys. We're just we're very professional. We're not.
Yeah, it is on that page.
Okay, cool. It's very short. It's like maybe like 30 seconds. But
so
okay,
cool. I can make that full screen as its own tab potentially. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. I'll set it up for you. Let's see. Boom, boom. All right, here we go. Let me get my make sure that I got this right. Let's see. All right, here we go. All right. So Temu, Shein, I think that's how you say it. Doesn't really matter. But a TikToker basically blasted them saying that Etsy sellers or Etsy buyers are being fooled because some Etsy sellers are buying products in bulk on Temu or Shein and they're selling them on Etsy. And well, people are pretty upset about it. So I want to hear exactly what she's talking about. Chris, can you pull up the article? And I think we even have the TikTok.
Yeah. So let me know, Scott, are you able to see that?
I am.
Awesome. So, Scott, what you were talking about is, are your Etsy finds really from Temu? And we had a TikToker who came out and said, you think you're getting a good deal and then it's coming from a small business, but really what they're doing is just shipping things from Temu. And I would say, looking through this, maybe, right? There are some drop shipping things that happen on Etsy. And we know just by being on the platform that occasionally we'll do that. But also, and we know this from personal experience, that some of the Temu things are just being sold on Etsy. So if you want to take a look at this, I'm going to flip over on the tabs here in just a second and let me know if you can see the TikTok now, and we'll listen to her and then give our thoughts. You able to see that?
Yep.
Awesome.
Hearts or piss you off anymore, but some of you who have recommended getting higher quality items on Etsy are being completely bamboozled and fooled, duped, tricked, led astray with the tomfoolery, because those same items are on Temu and Shein, and people are buying them in bulk and then reselling them for 2, 3, 4, 10 times the price on Etsy. And y'all are thinking that it's a good deal and that it's coming from a small business. And the business may be small, but I'm gonna hold your hand when I
Okay.
So she cuts off there, but really what she's talking about there, Scott, is that there's the potential some people are doing a little bit of drop shipping.
Mhm.
So what are your thoughts, generally speaking, about, do you think that this is a Temu thing? Do you think this is a Shein thing? Or do you think it's mostly going the other direction where people are ripping off what's selling well on Etsy and turning around and selling it on Temu and Shein? What do you think is the bigger version of the problem there?
Yeah, I think the bigger issue is they're taking, and I don't know who, but it seems like, and we've noticed it, where the people are taking, businesses are taking products from Etsy, and then they're putting them up on Temu or Shein, and that I see as a bigger problem than I see sellers who are buying stuff in bulk and trying to resell it on Etsy. Although it is still a problem, right? And I think that that's another thing that Etsy needs to pay attention to, because it is going to take your platform and make it, I don't know, it's going to make it where people are not going to trust it, because once they do find out that they are in fact drop shipping, which is, we know is not, it's not accepted. You're not allowed to do that. So yes, are people doing it? Are they going to get away with it for a little while? Yes, but I think the bigger problem is, and I don't really know the answer to like how to protect yourself from that. The only thing I can say is, like, and I've said this to my wife, don't go on Temu and look for your stuff, because you're going to find it and it's going to irritate you and it's going to frustrate you. And then you're going to be on a mission to try to get it all taken down, and you're probably never going to get it taken down. And then what's going to happen is you're going to waste all that time, and it really isn't going to matter at the end of the day. So I think that's a bigger problem than maybe this is another case scenario where maybe people are going to find our products on Temu, they're going to buy them cheaper, and then they're going to resell them on Etsy. That's a bigger problem, because now people are going to take our products, sell them on Temu or Shein as their own. People are going to buy them and then come over and sell our exact products on Etsy. I haven't seen that yet, but I bet you it will happen. So, I mean, Chris, that's what I'm seeing here. I think it is a problem. And I think Etsy does need to be aware of this.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple different variations of this that we've seen over the years, right? And Etsy has done a decent job of cracking down. And actually in 2023, and as part of that article, they did launch a filter to start to weed out anything that is on those things. And we saw a lot of Etsy sellers get caught up because people were stealing their exact images, putting the image and the product on Temu. And then the Etsy filter came and said, whoa, this is both places. And it took their listing down because they saw it on Temu, right? And so we know that it's happening the other direction. If you're doing something like curating gift boxes and one of the things that's in there is coming from AliExpress, Temu, Shein, that is actually okay inside of the terms of service. And I don't know that you can really do anything to get around that. But if you are drop shipping something from Temu, that is something they're actively trying to prevent. So what I would say is I've seen it much more the opposite way. I'm sure it's happening, right? Where people are finding things on Temu or Shein and they're listing it on Etsy. But what we've typically seen is that people will list something first on Etsy and then it gets copied over to Temu or Shein. And so, you know, if you can find something cheaper and that's really what you're looking for and you really want to buy through Temu or Shein, can you do it? In some cases, yeah. But if you are an Etsy seller, right, you can't be selling those things. And so if you're watching this and you are doing the drop shipping side of this, you need to stop because you're contributing to the problem. Etsy is trying to crack down on this. The approach they've taken so far has hurt the actual original Etsy sellers more than the people who are doing it the opposite way, at least based on what we've seen so far. So I think it's interesting that the general public is picking up on this a little bit. And I know it is something Etsy's actively trying to crack down on. And we've seen this on other platforms. A lot of other platforms struggle with this as well. Amazon struggles with this, right? It's something they've struggled with for a while. It used to be AliExpress. People would list something and then say, hey, it's coming from here. Now we have Temu and Shein, who are competitors directly with something like an AliExpress. And we're seeing people doing some drop shipping from there potentially. But the bigger issue that you and I have seen so far, and you guys can feel free to correct us in the comments, is going the opposite way. Etsy sellers will list something on Etsy, and then it happens to also pop up on Temu or Shein.
Now, okay, so a couple people brought up some good points here. What if you're building gift baskets or you know, like a bundle of some kind, and you're buying something from Temu or Shein, and that's part of your bundle, that's part of your thing? Is that still drop shipping? Is that okay? Have you now created something unique that isn't just you're buying something from Temu and flipping it over on Etsy? And then Jack in the shop said, I've got some pocket knives from Temu. I laser engrave them and sell them on Etsy. I think that's okay. It's almost like your supplier in a sense, right? It's like you're buying blanks and then you're personalizing them. That to me seems within, you know, the range of it being okay. Chris, what do you think on that? I mean, basically, if you're going to Temu, AliExpress, and you're buying blanks, and then you're just basically personalizing someone with their wedding date and their names, I think that's okay.
Yeah, that would be considered a handmade product under Etsy's terms of service, right? What you're not doing is buying the knife on Temu and selling the exact thing on Etsy, because you are making a difference. To me, that's no different, regardless of how we feel generally about Temu or Shein or AliExpress, right? That's no different than going to Walmart and buying a pocket knife and custom engraving it, or buying it in bulk from a supplier. There's really no difference there because you're not selling the same finished good that you were getting the other place.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Okay, cool. So with that being said, is that something that we got to worry about? I personally would just focus on building your brand. Like, just build your brand, build your email list, and continue down that road versus worrying about copycats, worrying about what's going to happen there. Just stay in your lane, focus on your niche, focus on your brand, build your email list, you know, get your marketing and promotions in place, and create some really good products. And just put the blinders on. All right, cool. Let's go to the next one here, Chris. And this one here is pretty interesting. And I'm just curious what this means for the platform. Like, is Etsy actually going to be in trouble now? And I'm sure you're going to be able to have a better take on this than I will. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it. So why don't we address this one? Do you have it queued up?
I do.
All right, cool. Then I'm going to go ahead and tee it up. All right. So I'm not much of a follow the stock market guy, although I do have some investments, but I just saw some breaking news that Etsy was dropped from the S&P 500. And for those of you that don't know, that's like where you want to be as far as in that category because that's all the top businesses that people are investing in that fund or in that that stock portfolio. Etsy was in it. Etsy got dropped. What does this mean? Is Etsy failing? Is Etsy going to go out of business? Is Etsy going to close its doors? I don't know what it means. I got Chris Schaefer here to break it down for us, though. And he's going to actually pull up that article and we're going to actually see what it means. And I want his take on this. Chris, what do you think?
So you got to bring in the numbers guy or the data nerd, whatever you want to call me, just to look at the numbers. And of course, you know, this headline comes across our plate, Scott, and we see Etsy removed from the S&P 500, right? Everybody has a heart attack. We got this email to us probably 50 times over the last week, and people are saying, oh my God, what's happening? And basically they're saying, hey, there's a couple different reasons that this could happen. And they said it was included in 2020 because they doubled their revenue and they started to become worth a lot more than they were previously. And people were really hyped up about Etsy stock, not thinking about the other thing that happened in 2020 that boosted all of the e-commerce revenue and things. And so they're saying, oh my God, you know, they're going to get removed on September 23rd, just a little over 4 years after they were first included, right? They're saying, oh, that's not good. You know, it's down 80% from its high in 2021. And the first thing I would say is I think we can all agree it was probably massively overvalued at that point.
Yeah.
Because people looked at growth during 2020 and said, it's going to the moon, baby. It's the next Bitcoin Etsy stock. And it's dropped. And it hasn't really dropped that much in terms of the year over year revenue and some of those kinds of things. But the value dropped because it was, quite frankly, overinflated. And so then they say, hey, why are they getting kicked out? They're saying the two main reasons that somebody might be in the S&P 500 would be the overall size, meaning the overall worth, and how profitable they are. And they're saying, look, Etsy's still profitable. It's actually still pretty darn profitable. And in fact, the first half of this year, Scott, they had $116 million in net income. And while it is down 15%, it's still really good for a business of the size of Etsy. And it's still substantial for a marketplace business to have the margins. So somebody like Amazon or eBay doesn't necessarily have the same margins that Etsy seems to have in terms of their net income. And they said, you know, when people get kicked out, usually it's for a big problem, like they're having a struggle, they're not profitable, which Etsy still is, right? They're not up for sale. None of those reasons are why they're getting kicked off. So why are they? They said the primary reason is just the size of the market cap. So what people think the company is worth itself. And they said, look, when it was initially included, it was 15 billion, which was that beginning of 2020. And then it ramped up to more than double without the numbers behind it to really support that to over $30 billion. And now that the 2020 craziness and the 2021 craziness has gone away, they're saying, look, the market cap is around 6 billion, which sounds like a lot less, except for the fact that they are still massively profitable. And so they're not really at the size that would be included typically in something like the S&P 500. So I know people are saying, what does this mean? Right? What do you mean they dropped by, 30, 40, 50% and they're still profitable? Like, it's not something we should be worried about. For reference, they're actually ahead of Bath and Body Works in terms of total value. Right. So I don't think anybody thinks Bath and Body Works is going away. If you guys know what that is, I know most of our American watchers will know what that is, right? It's a giant store. It's a giant e-commerce place in the US. Etsy's worth more than Bath and Body Works. So they're not going anywhere. And they even say, look, if they were getting taken away for serious reasons, this would be a different discussion. But it's the reality is they were overvalued, they were overhyped, and they're just not big enough to be included anymore. But it doesn't mean that it's going away. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong. And in fact, they're still very profitable. Are their sales numbers down from that high in 2020, 2021? Yes. And they've done actually a lot to become more profitable in that time period. And we're starting to see in different places a lot of the important numbers that really drive the business, like customer retention, repeat orders. That's where their focus is. And even the announcement they made a few weeks ago, Scott, about the changes they're making to the search engine are focused on driving more conversions and traffic. So it's one of those things where it's the headline sounds really, really scary, but when you drill in and look at it just a little bit, even the article from the stock market website is like, not really a big deal. It sounds a lot scarier than it is.
All right, cool. All right. Did you want to do that other, the other one that you had on the docket there?
Yeah. If you have a minute, we can do that.
I do. The question is, do you have the minute? You've got family in town.
Yeah. I do. Got a couple minutes. Let me see if I can get that one queued up here for us. In the meantime, Scott, did you see any comments or questions from people about the market cap or about them
no,
being
just
removed?
people were just like, oh no, what does this mean? They what? Yeah. Yeah, and just that,
Yeah.
yeah, I was just gonna do that. Yeah, Etsy went crazy over COVID time. People stuck at home thought, oh gee, I'll start a store. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like anything. And I think that's gonna be a hard thing for any business to look back at that year or year and a half and look at that and go, why did your sales drop after that? It's like everybody's pretty much did. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think anyone's ever going to have a year. The real estate is probably never going to see what it saw, but it's like now you see that on the graph and you're like, wow, we're not doing good, you know? And it's like, no, it's just, that was just an anomaly. It just wasn't something that's going to be happening all the time. So yeah. All right. You want to cue this one up too? Do you want to give it a little intro there, Chris? Because I forget like exactly the angle here, but why don't you take it away and then you can share it with me. Or maybe not there. There we go.
Well, we know that tab is working at least. So
yes, it is.
Elsie said no more selling masks. Exactly. Right. Like that whole side of the business went away. So who knows? So, Scott, one of the things that we get asked all the time is what's going on with Temu and Shein? And it turns out that they've been growing like crazy, but that's about to come to a screeching halt, at least if the US government has anything to do with it. You may know that one of the big reasons that people love Temu and Shein is that they can get stuff very inexpensively and it ships pretty quickly. But it's not shipping from the US. It's coming directly from China. And one of the reasons for that is a loophole called the de minimis loophole in the tariffs and all of the import taxes and things. And basically, any order under $800 can be exempt. So Temu and Shein over the last few years have been able to airship things directly from factories in China to US-based customers. So they can get it to you pretty quickly. You can avoid any of the import duties that you would have, Scott. So if you went to that same factory and you bought 10 t-shirts from them, you'd pay duties and taxes on that if that was over $800. I don't know who's selling $80 t-shirts, but you understand the example, right? Once you go and you try to buy things in bulk, that's when you would pay tariffs, you'd pay import taxes, you'd pay all of that fun stuff. If you're shipping it directly and you're shipping it to an individual, unless their Temu order somehow gets over $800, it's exempt from all of those things. I think the US government is saying that's enough. We don't think this is how you're supposed to use this loophole. And so what they're saying is they're proposing new rules to get rid of that $800 loophole because of what it's doing, not just to US companies, but because of what it's doing to the air shipping industry. They have tripled in size or more so in the last few years with the number of shipments that are coming in, air freight and air express and all of those kinds of things, because of the shipments coming from Temu and Shein. And so what the US government came out and said this week is that they're proposing some new rules that would limit the number of low value shipments that can come from China and other places with a few new taxes. And, you know, obviously, they're not going to say it directly, but it's really targeted at Temu and Shein. And so what they're saying is they have a plan to stop what they're calling the abuse of the exemption, which allows $800 or under packages to enter without any tariffs or fees. And this is referred to, Scott, as the de minimis rule, meaning it's a minimum thing, right? It's a small thing. Maybe if you order a sample from China, it doesn't make any sense to charge tariffs or imports on that, right? And this rule has been exploited by Temu and Shein to get stuff in one t-shirt, two t-shirt, 20 t-shirt bundles to individual US buyers and still being able to skirt the taxes that a larger order would incur. And what that means is they can get people stuff a lot cheaper than you could if you were even importing it yourself to sell to a US customer. And so what they're saying is, in 2016, they raised it from 200 to 800. And that's really when this stuff started taking off. The new rule that is being proposed by the current administration is saying basically anything from shoes to machinery and textiles would be removed from that exemption. So if it's a t-shirt or many of the things that people are typically buying on Temu and Shein, which is mostly in the clothing and textile side of things. And we know from the different sellers that we've heard from, right, people who have t-shirt stores in the US are just literally, for lack of a better term, losing their shirts, right, to this exemption. And so they're going after the things that are the most common on these platforms. They're saying it would apply to 70% of textiles and apparel. Anything that's shoes, anything that's machinery or equipment would be removed from that $800 or under dollar exemption. So shippers would have to start to provide not only more information, but would be potentially hit with those tariffs and import taxes that would apply to the shipments over $800, which would, in theory, level the playing field, right? And so Temu and Shein have both said in the past that it's extremely beneficial. Temu came out and said, this isn't going to make a difference, right? Our business model doesn't depend on it. Shein's saying the same thing, but this is going to be something that is a massive impact on these two companies. I wanted to get your thoughts. So if they're going to double or triple essentially the amount that they're going to have to pay to get that to a US customer, is that low price model that they are very dependent on right now, is that still going to be a thing? Do you see this making a difference? Like, is this the end of Temu and Shein as we know them? Because they're not going to be always the lowest priced option anymore.
Yeah, I personally do think it's going to hurt them. I think it's going to hurt them because I think people were willing to go, I'll take a risk over there and buy on that platform, because it's cheaper, right? Like that was the whole thing, right? But if you're telling me I'm going to pay pretty much the same or more, then I can just go to Amazon or Etsy or eBay here in the States. Why would I do it? You know what I mean? Like, so their business model, I do believe, wasn't on like what good quality that they had. It was price. It was cheap, right? And that's what people were, that's what they were signing up for. But I think now if you go, oh, it's, that t-shirt that was $12 is going to be $20. They're like, well, what's the difference? I can get it right over here. It's not like you're going to Temu because, at least from where I'm sitting, I don't see that. Maybe I'm wrong. Let us know in the comments. Does Temu seem like a platform that you're like, is it the same as Amazon to you? Does it look like the same as Amazon? Do you have the same feel as Amazon? For me, it doesn't. Amazon seems like a legit company. I'm trusting it. I can get more than just, the shirts and, the textile stuff. I can also get movies. So it's like, why am I going to go over there when I can still get it over here? The only reason would be because it's cheaper. At least that's how I see it, Chris.
Yeah, and I think so we hear them say, and this obviously, what else would you say if you're Temu or Shein, right? Yeah, it's not a problem. We're not dependent on that at all, right? If you're the spokesperson, you're like, yeah, it's definitely going to impact our business. That's a great way to not only get fired and because of where they are in the world, potentially thrown in like a gulag or something, right? But also crash your stock price. And even with them coming out and saying it's not going to affect us, I think it was Temu's stock price dropped 2% as soon as this was announced, which might not sound like a big deal, but it's a couple $100 million or $1 billion in market cap when you start to really think about the size of these companies. I think the American Action Forum, who is someone who has been pushing for a change to this exemption for a while, said it will result, and again, this is a big range and these are big numbers, but $8 to $30 billion in additional cost to Temu and Shein. And we've talked in the past about how Temu and Shein rely on the extremely low cost of things to be able to get things to US customers. And they are, in a lot of cases, even subsidizing the price of this, right? So they're paying sellers additional money on each sale and losing money in a lot of cases on sales. If you stack another $8 to $30 billion in costs on top of that, even the money behind Temu and Shein, at some point you run out of other people's money and you have to pass that on to customers, right? I don't care how big your bank account is. If we're talking about $30 billion a year in additional cost, that means they have to either bring in an additional $30 billion just to break even, or they're going to have to pass some of that on to customers. Now, does it mean it goes up by $1, $5, $10 a shipment? That we won't know yet. But that additional cost on top of the fact that in a lot of cases, they're already subsidizing the cost by either paying the sellers on the back end or just eating the cost difference between what the seller is charging them and what they're charging the customers to try to gain that market share. The reason both of those sites have been able to grow so quickly and take bites out of Amazon, take bites out of places like Etsy, is because they have that low price model. Scott, do you remember Kmart?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
right? Where is Kmart now? Do they exist?
Yeah, they do not exist. It's been years. Actually, they merged with
Sears,
Sears.
right?
Yeah.
Who
And then
also
Sears went
doesn't
out too. Both of them are
right?
gone. Yeah.
And what was Kmart's model? I think it was the lowest price model, right?
Right.
And they got their lunch eaten by Walmart, who then, turned around and started getting their lunch eaten by Amazon, who then turned around and started getting their lunch eaten by Temu and Shein. Why? Because being the lowest price option is not a sustainable business model. Well, it is until somebody else can figure out a way to be less expensive than you. And in this case, Temu and Shein were relying on that exemption, even though they're saying that they're not, to get around some of the rules that other US based sellers would have had to pay attention to. If they're importing the exact same product, they were able to get around that. And if we're increasing the cost by $8 to $30 billion, that's potentially a way to not just slow the growth of those sites, but potentially give market share back to the older marketplaces who have a more stable pricing model.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, Chris, and we'll wrap up with this last statement from you. What does this mean for Etsy sellers, Amazon sellers, eBay sellers? What does it mean? What does it mean? Is it good news? Is it going to affect Temu? Do you believe? Like, what do you think the future looks like? And I mean, if this bill even gets passed, because we don't even know if it's 100% going to get passed, right? Has it been officially said, or it still has to be voted on, correct?
So in the original proposal, it was going to be an executive order. I believe it's a new rule, not necessarily a new law. And so there's two ways that things can happen in the US. The first is with congressional approval, right? They vote on a new law. If the administration believes they have the power to just change how this is enforced based on the existing law, then they can go through the comment period. They announce what they want that change to be, go through the comment period, and then it has the force of a law. And that appears to be the route that they're taking. Now, it also sounds like they are proposing a more official, rule change within the US government itself, but they propose this as a new rule, which would be an executive action. The upside to that is they can get it implemented quickly. The downside to that is a new administration could come in and change that. And we know, the US has an election coming up in just a few months. And so all of that could change, although I doubt it, given both major candidates' positions on what's going on between the US and China from a trade perspective right now. But I think if this were to go into effect, this will have a massive impact on Temu and Shein. Again, we talked about the number that came out of the American Action Forum, $8 to $30 billion. We know that they're already subsidizing orders to get people those less expensive prices. If you start piling more expenses on there, at some point, they start to run out of other people's money and they have to pass that on to customers. When it is no longer the cheapest place to get things, because of the experience, because of the experiences that people have had on both of those platforms. And what you and I have talked about in the past, Scott, is they've done a great job of new customer acquisition. What they haven't done a good job of is customer retention. They can get people to order in a lot of cases once, maybe twice, and then they go, I don't like the quality of what I got. It wasn't worth the price that I was getting. And they're running up against two big walls now, especially if this goes into effect. One is they're kind of running out of new customers in the US market because everybody's tried it once or twice and gone, I'm not so sure that I've liked that. So they're going to have to pivot away from the low priced model. What that means for existing e-commerce sellers on Amazon, Etsy, and eBay, I think it's good news. What you're going to see is a lot less spend on the Shein and Temu side, both from their advertising spend. And we've talked about the billions of dollars that both of them have pumped into advertising, and less consumer spend on those platforms, because the real reason people are attracted to those sites is not the buying experience. Let's be honest. It's not the quality of the products, and it's not that they keep coming back because they have really unique things. You can find pretty much everything on either of those platforms on other prices. It's all about the pricing. And if they start to run out of that runway that they had, especially if you're starting to pile $8 to $30 billion of additional costs onto those platforms, you're going to start to see the appeal of those start to drop off. And you'll potentially see increased sales places like Etsy, Amazon, and eBay, which US and Canadian customers have trusted for a while. If they don't have that price advantage anymore, you'll start to see that same buying behavior shift back to those platforms.
Beautiful. Coming from the desk of Chris Schaefer. Da, da, da. There you go. There it was, guys. No, that was good. That was good. And I think that it is important for people to understand what's happening, even though it might not directly affect you right this second.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to try to do. I mean, Chris is on the news stories. I'm on the news stories, trying to just keep our eyes and ears open so we can, so we can consume that information. And I know that LC just said, love this. You guys are providing great info. Thank you. Yeah. And that's the goal, right? Like, just to try to bring it to you and distill it down so you don't have to, sift through a whole bunch of blog posts. Blue light specials. Yes, I remember them. Aisle 9. So awesome. All right. Do we have any quick questions, Chris, before we wrap officially here?
We had a few. Daniel was asking about email, Scott. He said, are you splitting your audience into categories and sending them newsletters according to their needs? So one thing you'll hear from like really high level e-commerce people is like, oh, divide your list into all of these little subcategories.
Yeah.
If you're using the niche-based approach that we talk about, it's not really necessary. The only time you might do that is if you're promoting a specific product and you don't want to email people who have already purchased that, or the easy way to do this is with the resend to unopens, right? If they've already seen the message, they don't need to see that same email again. We can do that. Segmentation can be powerful, but the biggest mistake that we see e-commerce sellers make is that they try to over segment their list, right? And Scott, you're familiar with Klaviyo as a platform. It's a really high-end email marketing platform that e-commerce sellers think that they like until they get into it. And no offense, Klaviyo, right? But like what they're all about is segmentation. And if they click this, then send them that. And if they do this, then they do that. And it's very easy to get bogged down in the minutia of like, I never want them to see the same product twice. And what I've noticed when you do that is you overcomplicate it to the point where you then have no idea what you've already done. The easiest way to do this is to think about this from the niche-based level. And if you want to layer some segmentation on there, think about what people have purchased. And that's something Everbee email allows you to do, right? You can look at things that people have looked at. You can include specific products or exclude specific products. So if you want to do that, you can. But for the most part, you're just going to be sending the same email to everybody. And the way that you have segmented them is by one, whether they have asked to hear from you, and two, the fact that they're interested in the things that you're sending out.
Yeah. People
get worried about unsubscribes. And Scott, I know that you talked about this. There's nothing wrong with somebody unsubscribing. In fact, if they want to unsubscribe, it saves me a heck of a lot of time, energy, and effort, right? I don't have to worry about that person anymore. Have a nice day. Somebody else will sign up here in a couple minutes and we can part ways as friends.
Yeah, perfect.
In every email blast that we send, should we be sending a discount and a single product, or like what would that look like? We showed a couple different examples and they followed a very similar structure. So are we always sending a discount? Are we always talking specifically about a product? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, there's always a reason, right? So that's why we have to come up with the reason that we're sending the email in the first place. Right? It's not just to send an email and go, hey guys, I'm just checking in. I had a great morning. I had a great breakfast, had a great workout. Have a great day. Like we're not just sending out a random email. So there is a purpose behind every single email that we write, right? And that could be just letting people know that you have something that you created 3 months ago, right? Like I could have came on in that one email and said, hey guys, the fall air, is making, or the fall feel is making me feel, I don't even know what I'm saying. It's making me feel like it's fall, right? And you know what? This chilly weather, it makes me think I'm probably going to need a sweatshirt. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to grab my pumpkin spice, sweatshirt, and I'm going to throw that on today before I go to the college football game. That's why I love, that I started this Etsy shop, because I'm able to now create these sweatshirts for myself, but also I get to offer them to other people. So if you need a sweatshirt for those chilly fall days, go here and check it out at my shop. Like I literally just pulled that out of thin air, right? So it's like, you have to have a reason. And yes, it's generally going to mention something. It's not going to be always a hard sell. It's not going to be like, go here and get this thing before it expires. It's not always going to be that. It's just like, hey, here's this thing. I've been working on it. If you want to go check it out, here it is. This is why I created it. This is why you might like it. Have a great day, right? Like it's nothing more complicated than that. Although you do need a direction, or what's the sense in sending the email? Unless you just want to send emails to communicate with people back and forth, right? Like, yes, there should be a reason.
I would say, you said you pulled that out of thin air. I think thin air might be the reason that you put on a sweatshirt, right? It could just be. But it's really all about communicating that with the customer. And if you can come up with a reason to send it, then send it, right? If not, if you just want to say, hey, we're creating some new stuff over here, it doesn't always have to be a product. It's like, hey, we're creating some fall designs. Is there something specific you want to see? You can send that to your customers too. Yeah. And they'll reply with some of the things that they want to see you create. Scott, where are the best places to start with the brand creators courses? Which one? I'm new here and I'm an Etsy survivor.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, here's the deal. It just depends where you are, right? In your journey, right? Like, we're not one to sell these, really expensive courses and, charge you $3,000 to $5,000 for these massive courses. We won't mention any names out there. We probably know who we're talking about, but, we create little mini trainings in a sense that'll help you in certain areas. We do have our flagship course, which is our 1, 2, 3 pod fast track, which is basically how we're building a brand, how we've been able to do it inside of the Etsy ecosystem, but also how we're building it externally, or at least building the assets so we can go externally. And so it just depends on where you are. I would say if you're brand new and you're just starting, that's where I would start, because then everything else kind of builds off of that. But it depends. Like if you're telling me, well, I've been doing this a while, I got my Etsy ads going good. I understand SEO, but I need help with email, then I would do the email stuff. Like right now we have what we call our 1-day email list building workshop. That also is going to be something that we're going to be offering alongside a new product that we're going to be creating, which is going to be our plug and play email templates. And we're going to do a writing workshop that's going to be assisting in that. So it just depends on where you're at. So maybe if you can give us a little more clarity, or send us an email, support@brandcreators.com. Tell us where you're at. We can direct you. But yeah, everything that we create is always for certain areas that you might need help with. And then you can go through that training so it helps you move forward in your own business, because everybody's at a different place.
Yeah. Alex said, I noticed I'm running Etsy ads and I have 500 views while I'm running the ads, but when I check my dashboard, the 500 views aren't reflecting on it. So the first question would be, are those coming from the ads, or is that organic, right? Are you talking 500 total? If it is coming from the ads, reach out to Etsy support. It may just be a glitch in your dashboard. They can help you get squared away.
Yep.
I think that was it. I had one other one, but it's escaping me.
LC said, do you use Instagram? No, we don't. Instagram to me is a platform that you got to constantly keep feeding, and there's no guarantees. It's kind of like Facebook. I look at Facebook. The only way I'm using Facebook or Meta is I'm using it for Facebook ads. Right now, we're currently not running ads, but when we run one of our fishbowl method giveaways, that we call it a fishbowl method, but it's basically a giveaway. When we do that, we do run Facebook ads, which we're about to start running those here probably in the next 3 to 4 weeks. And then that'll be to build our email list, right? And then that building of the email list will also then lead us to more sales, because during the build, we also get sales, but then we also get sales after the fact. But we do things that we can control, or that we feel like we have the most potential for the amount of time that's going to be spent. So if you have time to post on Instagram, I would be building an email list and spend the time writing an email to people that are actually going to see it. Right.
I think that's a big thing. People talk all the time, Scott, about social media, and it's like, okay, there's 2 things that come before Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, right? Yeah. And it would be mastering the stuff inside of Etsy. Do you have your products up? Do you have your listings optimized? Are you running ads? And then thing number 2 would be, are you taking advantage of email, which is going to be the thing that keeps us independent regardless of the platform that we are using. And so if we can master those 2 things first, right, get our listings up, understand everything with inside of the Etsy ecosystem, and then start to master email marketing. If we really have those 2 things under our belt, then look at some of the social media stuff. Start with Pinterest, then maybe look at Instagram. But it's all about the things that are going to give us the biggest bang for our buck. Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook. It can feel nice to get a couple hundred or a couple thousand views on something, but it's not going to lead to sales the same way as even getting a few hundred people one time onto that email list.
Yeah. And the other thing is too, is like your email list, you don't have an algorithm necessarily, right? Like we're not trying to beat the algorithm. Yes, you have promotions tab and spam filters.
Spam.
Right. But if we are doing the emails the way that we say we are, we're going to have a much greater chance of it being delivered. With Instagram or Meta or TikTok or any of them, we're relying on the algorithm to give us that. I'm not like we're on YouTube right now. Like I'm interested in YouTube and like the algorithm, but also you're looking at, that's more of a long-term strategy, because if you're posting on YouTube, you have potential long evergreen type of content that'll keep bringing people back to you. On Instagram, it's done. It's, you put it out there, it's done, right? It's good for 24 hours and it's pretty much going to vanish. It's there, but no one's going to see it because it's moving so fast. So I would say email would be the big thing that I would focus on. If you guys need help with that, email in the comments, just put email and we'll send you a copy of our guide. Yeah, we're going to be doing an email writing workshop that's going to be right along with our email templates that we're going to be rolling out here soon. If you do get the email playbook, you'll hear about that, because we'll be notifying you by email when that is available, which will be soon. And we're going to do a little writing workshop to assist with those templates. So we're pretty excited about that. All right, guys, that is going to pretty much wrap up today's live stream. I want to thank you guys for hanging out with us. Just over 100 of you. I want to thank each and every one of you. We appreciate you. And if you would do us a favor, smash that like button, maybe subscribe if you haven't yet subscribed. We're almost at 100,000 subscribers. You can help us do that by, by subscribing if you're not already. And that's going to pretty much wrap it up. We will be back here next week. Got something cool we're going to share with you next week, and you're going to want to stick around for that. So, guys, that's it. That's going to wrap it up. As always, take care, take action, have an awesome, amazing day. We'll see you right back here on the next episode.